moderator. I will be your moderator, Sandy Fazeli. I'm a senior managing director here at NASEO. For those of you who might not be familiar, NASEO is the nonprofit association for the governor-designated energy officials from each of the 56 states and territories. We serve as a resource for and about the state and territory energy offices. And we also advance the interests of the state and territory energy offices before Congress and the administration. On the right of the screen here, you'll see our board of directors, which includes a wide diversity of state energy office leaders from across the country, and we're very grateful for their leadership over NASEO. For those of you in the audience that might be interested, we have a solar working group here at NASEO that meets monthly. It serves as a collaborative forum for state and territory energy offices to exchange ideas and learn from experts as they design and implement statewide low-income solar and storage initiatives. As you can imagine, the main theme right now is the EPA Solar for All program, which we'll be touching on today as well. And if you're interested in joining, please do contact my colleagues, Grace Lowe and Arvan Golbazi, who are listed on this screen. Before we get into the webinar, I just wanted to share a few logistics. So please note that the webinar is being recorded and we'll be sharing it with state and territory energy offices after its conclusion. We also welcome and would love any questions or comments that you have, so feel free to contribute to the discussion using the Q&A feature on Zoom. And if you have any technical difficulties, please use the chat feature or the Q&A feature to contact the NASEO webinar organizers. In today's case, that is me, Sandy Fazeli, as well as Arvan Golbazi, my colleague. So now on to the good stuff. We've got a really great speaker lineup for you today, including Brandy O'Quinn, SolSmart Program Director with the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, Patrick Hayakawa, Jurisdiction Support Officer with the Solar App Foundation, Erik Schmidt, the Energy Program Administrator for the Office of Energy Programs within the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, and Ari Moledina, Program Manager for Renewable Energy with the Colorado Energy Office. So to kick us off on the discussion of local solar permitting is Brandy O'Quinn with the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. Brandy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Sandy, and thank you to NASEO for giving us this opportunity to share. And I'm going to give kind of an abbreviated version of the SolSmart program. Let's see. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Oh, I love that. As opposed to my face.
And Brandy, just so you know, we're seeing the back end of your slides. Oh, perfect. That looks good.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, never know. So Brandy O'Quinn with Erik, and I want to also introduce Deb Perry, my colleague, who's with the International City and County Management Association, and she's available to answer any questions as we go forward. So what is SolSmart? It's a free national designation and technical assistance program that is currently funded by the DOE, and we help local governments streamline permitting and inspection processes to ensure that they can accelerate the adoption of solar for their residents and businesses. We are a much larger team. We have our membership organizations like NASEO and quite a few others, but we also have an incredible team of national solar experts that provide the technical assistance to our local governments. So we have 3 program guides and we provide customized support. These program guides are specific, like the standard is for the local jurisdiction that oversees the permitting and inspection processes. But we also have one that typically is for counties because they serve a critical role to be a convener of their member cities and towns and parishes. And then we also have a program guide that is for our regional organizations, our council of governments or metropolitan planning organizations. And the TA that we provide to local governments is truly tailored around the goals and priorities of that community. We provide anything and everything that that community may need in terms of like a solar landing page to ensure that there's transparency to the community and installers, as well as examples, checklists, anything that they may need to deploy solar more efficiently. And just so, and this is very important to building code officials and fire and safety, is they want to ensure that these are proven best practices and they are endorsed and reviewed by the International Code Council and the other trade organizations that the building code officials and fire and safety are a part of. So SolSmart plus Solar for All. Again, we remove the barriers to solar. And we provide that free training and technical assistance and resources, which reduces the soft costs by about 65%. So when you guys at the state energy offices who've been awarded money to disseminate that to your local government or through nonprofits, we're there to help ensure that the training is available to the local government officials. So this is our SolSmart designation structure. We have 4 levels. It's bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. We have a set of criteria that is a corresponding point value, 5, 10, 20, and it is totally dependent on that community and what they hope to achieve. Many of them come in at the bronze level, and that really is to ensure that you have a solar landing page on the website, a permitting checklist, so that the transparency, again, is there for installers to make it much easier. This shows over the past 8 years what we've been able to accomplish. And this shows you a good deal of the representation across the nation. We're in 44 states, including Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. And we have over 560 communities that have gone through the designation process. So I thought this was interesting. Is grandma subsidizing Google? Everybody is starting to feel the strain. And the Clean Air Task Force calls this a huge political challenge that's emerging as major tech companies look to power their growing AI operations. And to meet that demand, the electricity supply will have to expand more than 5 times faster than the prior 2 decades. And so which will increase cost burdens to our customers. This just came out in February, and this is, hopefully you guys can see it, but it is by state, and it kind of just shows the steep increase in electricity costs. It's going to cause energy insecurity, some by nearly 30%. So no matter who you are, whether you are a government at this local, county, or even state level, if you want to install solar, you have to get a permit, and that's where we come in. And sometimes local officials, if they are not comfortable with solar and storage, they will deny an application. And your solar installers can tell you exactly what communities there are the most difficult. So we want to help deploy solar and storage by providing that critical training. So, and there is no other program that provides this free TA and training to local governments to help them enhance their government efficiency. And that's really what we're talking about, and sharing the proven best practices. And cities remain critical players as this federal climate policy landscape crumbles. So what a partnership agreement could possibly look like with state energy offices such as yourselves is market and share the SolSmart information and the trainings that we provide. We have national trainings in permitting and inspection, planning and zoning. It's all free. It's for the local governments. And then what we will do is we will provide, again, the free tailored technical assistance to help them streamline permitting and inspection. And because of this incredible opportunity with the Solar for All awards, solar installations are obviously going to increase, and we want to help eliminate that red tape and ensure that those processes are more efficient. Call to action. Not sure if the tax credits were part of your formula when you were putting together your application, but obviously everybody knows this, the tax credits go away at the end of the year. Please use us. Don't recreate the wheel. We have proven best practices. We will share all the templates and examples. You can even rebrand it with your state energy office, logos, etc. And if you're working with nonprofits, we can also encourage them to influence the local government authority to seek the SolSmart designation. And here is our contact information. And we can truly, again, tailor what a relationship would look like for your state and with your communities. So Sandy, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you, Brandy, so much. That was a really helpful overview. And maybe just to, lay on the point, SolSmart is completely free for a locality to be able to access. Is that right? It's just a matter of having the staff time to dedicate. That's
right. And that's why we have the model templates and checklists, etc., because we understand how strained local governments are, and we want to make sure it's as easy as possible to do what they need to do.
Great. Thank you, Brandy. All right. Moving on to another really important tool that states should be thinking about in the context of their solar programs is Solar App. So Patrick Hayakawa with the Solar App Foundation will share a little bit more on that front. Patrick, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. Let me bring up my correct screen share here. And all right. So nice to meet you, everybody. I'm Patrick Hayakawa, Jurisdiction Support Officer for the Solar App Foundation. Thank you to NASEO and Sandy and all my fellow panelists for helping put this together. My goal for the next, I think, 10 minutes or so that we have on Solar App is for you as my understanding is state energy offices. Maybe some of you are Solar for All grantees. Maybe some of you are energy offices or policymakers apart from that. In either case, my hope is that you'll leave in the next 10 minutes understanding what is Solar App Plus. Number two, why is it relevant, if it's relevant, to your Solar for All goals and priorities, work plans, ideas, needs. And then three, if you find it is relevant, in the last part of the presentation, seeing specifically how myself are here to support you, our team is here to support you in your goals. Okay, so to get started, what is Solar App Plus? Solar App is a free online platform that instantly processes code-compliant residential rooftop solar permits. So for better or for worse, everything we're talking about for the next 10 minutes applies to residential rooftop solar. I know that's core to many Solar for All coalition goals. Some are focused on other varieties of solar. That's fine. If residential is not part of your work plan, then I'm afraid we might not be super relevant for you. That said, if one of your work goals is to deploy large amounts of residential solar, particularly in perhaps low-income areas or areas that historically don't have high volumes of solar projects, we could be a very, very helpful tool and an early action item for your group. So Brandy talked very nicely about some of the soft costs, ways that municipalities even unintentionally are placing burdens or blockers on the efficient, streamlined deployment of solar. We're also helping to bridge that gap in our own way. We are laser focused on plan review, which is the process by which, as you know, municipalities are reviewing rooftop plan designs for safety and code compliance. And before they stamp off, they have to have an expert look at those. And typically that's a fairly manual and labor intensive process. Our platform, developed by the Department of Energy through the National Renewable Energy Lab, is able to automate that process for your most basic and common residential rooftop solar types. So we estimate that about 80% of the residential projects that are going through manual review, each taking about an hour each, could be processed through automated review of our system, saving immense municipal staff time, immense costs on the part of the installer and thereby on the residents, and really time and efficiency for everybody involved as we look at the nation's rising energy challenges that I'm sure all of you know, likely even more about than I do from your vantage points. Okay, so think of Solar App Plus as a virtual plan reviewer available 24/7, delivering real-time feedback and performing up to 300 code compliance checks across electrical, structural, fire safety, verifying contractor licensure and insurance requirements so that homeowners and jurisdictions can be confident that those projects can proceed without delay. Okay. Solar App was built launched in 2021, being developed by NREL, a National Renewable Energy Lab. We're now an independent foundation, and our charge is to continue the maintenance and operation of this technology platform while educating jurisdictions and making it available to them across the country. Real quickly, some of the challenges of manual solar permitting. We can talk about, the macro electric grid challenges across the nation. We see that as part of our goal. We see lowering costs for consumers and increasing energy choice as part of a goal. We also see making life better for local permit reviewers and local municipal staff, part of our goal too. They are burdened. They are burdened with poor quality plans from contractors, frequent cancellations, multitude of revisions. All that leads to lots of back and forth and extra hassle for both sides of the equation. And then difficulty hiring or retaining qualified permit techs. All of that leads to complex requirements. They vary by jurisdiction. Excuse me. In addition to that, they're burdened with complex requirements varying by jurisdiction, confusion for installers and for homeowners. All of that leads to consumer delays, unsafe installations, and high costs. So those are outcomes that we are seeking to avoid. I'm going to be quick on this because, as I said, I think this audience is probably familiar with the challenge of the U.S. energy demand. So those are the problems we're looking to address. The solution is something like Solar App Plus that is free for governments to use. It's safe in that it leverages the latest residential electrical fire codes, predictable, applying consistent standards for installers, and providing fast permits. I'll also say, when you talk about that value of predictable and standardized, there are benefits in the context of your vantage point as state energy offices. It's one nice thing if one jurisdiction adopts Solar App Plus and they save their staff time, but obviously installers are operating in multiple jurisdictions. So if we can provide programs or education or outreach that make people understand that, hey, not just one major metro area, but the surrounding collar counties perhaps, all on a similar platform, that's when you really start to have those compound effects, those network effects really of a standardized system across the region that's going to actually move the needle for either state energy goals in renewables or for consumer choice and cost. That's what we're trying to do. In a nutshell, I think it's, before we talk about partnership opportunities and impacts of Solar App Plus, it's important for you all to, at a very high level, to understand how the tool works. In a conventional permitting landscape today, if I'm an installer, I can drop my plans and I can email them over, walk in, put them on the plan reviewer's desk and say, here you go. You figure it out. You tell me if I have a code compliant project, then start the clock on the manual review. Again, those back and forth. Sometimes it takes a day, sometimes it takes a week, sometimes it takes 6 weeks. It varies across the country. What we're doing is we're placing a little bit more burden on the qualified licensed technician at the outset to provide digital information through our web form about their project details. We're validating and checking those answers in real time to save the first round of pass from the staff. If they have an error, we tell them, the installer, they have an error, we help them fix it if they can. If they can spend about 30 minutes, they really know their stuff, finishing the application, then they're going to get an approval from us. We've baked in the jurisdiction's local requirements. We are based on the international model codes, but we're not bringing certain code interpretation or certain code compliance definitions to the jurisdiction. We're keeping their current workflows and standards for code approval and bringing automation into that. So you don't have to choose between, as a jurisdiction, how you do things now and whether you use SolApp. You keep them both. You keep your current codes and standards. You keep your definitions of code compliance. You bring automation to it. And then through that, you're presenting your installers with a secondary optional pathway, meaning if you like the conventional method of plan review, you can do it manual review and submit and wait for approval of that method. If you're a savvy installer and you want a self-guided plan review process online that will spit out an instant approval for a compliant project, we're pleased to say we now offer SolApp, and they do that through a hyperlink on the jurisdiction's webpage. Last but not least, before we hit some of the solar for all opportunities and synergies, I think it's important, I think, for all of you to know we're interested in efficiency, we're interested in increasing energy choice and lowering costs, but SolApp is fundamentally a community safety tool. After all, that's what code compliance is all about, is to protect constituents from a community safety standpoint. So here we have a testimonial I love from Carla Blackwell, now retired, former director of development services at Pima County, Arizona, one of our early adopters. She said, for us, SolApp Plus was the most efficient method to assure code compliance while standardizing inspections and allowing the customers to control their permitting timeframe, a win-win. We helped them work through a backlog of thousands of solar permits during the pandemic. Now the tool is being more widely adopted in jurisdictions where there's not necessarily a backlog, but just people who realize they've been doing, one building official said to me the other day that we've been doing our laundry by hand and we didn't know that there's a washing machine out there that can get it just as good and save us a ton of time. We have collaborated with a number of Solar for All coalitions already. We look forward to more of those conversations. The sense we're getting from the partners we've spoken to already is that they see SolApp as sort of a quick win, a tangible win, whether it's part and through the SolSmart program, which we highly recommend and have great collaborations with Brandy and her team, or if it's jurisdictions pursuing SolApp on its own, that's a viable pathway as well. So the reason we think that they were seeing it as a quick win is obviously it's validated. It's a DOE-backed tool already in use in 300 jurisdictions nationwide. We've issued over 100,000 solar permits to date. While being viable nationwide, it's also customizable in that way that I said earlier, not a one-size-fits-all solution. Secondly, it's really quick to deploy. Once a jurisdiction decides this is a viable option for them or something that they could benefit from, we can be up and running, sort of folded into their existing workflows in as little as 7 days, no hard costs on their end. And it's high impact. Independent NREL Commission report estimated that by automating plan review, you can lower costs between $200 to $1,300 per project, and huge savings of municipal staff burden in terms of that time avoided through manual plan review. I'm sharing this slide simply to show some of our trends in adoption. Again, 300 jurisdictions nationwide, large utilization there in the Sun Belt, California, Southwest, but again, continued interest in places like, or growing interest in places like Ohio, Virginia, that aren't considered large solar markets, but again, they like that we're bringing some technical expertise. We like that we're helping keep their systems up to date. We manage our own library of equipment and taking a lot of work off their plate. So we're really excited about those growth and viability in areas not historically associated with dominant solar markets. Just to call out a few examples here, you have had really great government partnership and leadership in places like Colorado. I know we're going to hear, from Ari later on, where they've had a SolApp state incentive program. You've had state incentive programs in Minnesota, Illinois, Texas. You've had legislation requiring some sort of plan review automation in both California, and Maryland, where I just came from a webinar a moment ago, where they're also funding a grant program for adoption. Forgive me if I'm missing out any, but I guess my point for the audience in this call is just because you see maybe your state on the map, all that means is that we have at least one jurisdiction in your state using Solar App. It doesn't mean we're necessarily widespread, or doesn't mean we wouldn't benefit through some sort of outreach or education partnership through your Solar for All activities, which we'd be glad to support you on. So we are in a lot of places. We're accepting partnership, jurisdiction interest nationwide. We've grown to added 5 states just in this summer. But I did want to talk about some of the impacts of the legislation passed in DC last year. This is not my data. If anyone wants to see the Ohm Analytics updated forecast, just came out, I believe, last week regarding their forecast. I wanted to share this as people think about other solar enthusiasts that I've spoken to. A couple of weeks ago, you could imagine like, oh, is it too late to do anything? Is it too late to have an impact, right? Is the loss of those credits so catastrophic? I wanted to share this because I think the takeaway from the Ohm Analytics report is the answer is no, it's not too late. We can still have a really big impact. And I think supporting Brandy's point, now is a really good time. You're going to see a pullback into Q4 of 2025 as people try to race and get more projects in for the lapse of the first round of those homeowner credits. The leased credits for leased residential systems continue to the end of 2027. But again, 2026 is going to be a tough year. Ohm Analytics does forecast, though, that once you get into 2027 and beyond, you're going to continue to see double digit in the teens, 15, 16, 17, 19% year-over-year growth, meaning it's going to more than outpace the losses of 2026. The market will find a way to compete. Solar will find a way to compete, especially as you look at all of you deploying huge amounts of solar along this. The better we can do at reducing soft costs in smart incentive programs, I think we can have a huge effect to make this uptick happen sooner. Consumers want energy choice. They want lower costs. This is going to happen. So this is definitely worth keeping up this push, I think is my point here. And that was encouraging news for me. Real quick, because I know I'm probably over time here. These are examples of specific state program support we've developed in partnership with other Solar for All groups, and looking forward to more. These are things like helping you decide if an incentive program is right for your state, how to design that incentive program, meaning a state level funding of grants or awards for jurisdictions that wish to adopt automated plan review. We could help share what we've seen work in other states, what we think was less effective, how to market that, how to partner on webinars for statewide education. Outreach toolkits, things like slide decks customized to your region, to your audiences. We have a lot of experience speaking to different environmental climates and cultural climates and things like that, and pieces that we'd work with you to make sure your message is hitting the right audience. Then there's things like cohort models, which we're considering in a few states where cities go through it together. Then high volume direct outreach, installer training is an important part of it, and then going in person to speak with contractors, installers, permit offices, and support them on the ground. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and really appreciate you framing sort of that market forecast. That was extremely helpful in the context of this conversation.
Great.
Great. Well, I'm really excited that 2 representatives of state energy offices have joined us today to share more about how they're applying some of these concepts into their solar programs. And we'll be starting with Erik Schmidt from the Tennessee Office of Energy Programs, sharing more about Solar for All. And Erik, I'm happy to share your slides, or you're more than welcome to share them yourself.
Yeah, if you want to share them, that'd be fine. Yeah, that way we'll skip a step in me making sure I'm doing it right.
Sure.
And thanks to Brandy and Patrick for their overviews. I think it's a great reminder for us in Tennessee to share those resources as we continue to engage with local power companies and local governments as they pursue their solar goals. So we can go ahead and skip ahead to the next slide. I will not belabor the slides on the EPA Solar for All program, but just kind of kept them in here for background context on what the program hopes to achieve. And then we'll move into Tennessee's program. Go ahead. I think the important thing, obviously, to remember is what the initial intention of the Solar for All program was, which was to increase access to affordable and resilient and clean zero emissions power to help with households and low income and disadvantaged communities who typically face higher energy burdens relative to their peers in less disadvantaged areas. Basically from extension of that, we want to make sure in Tennessee that those benefits are equally spread across the state for the range of communities from rural to urban and suburban that we have. Next slide. Just real quick, just basically the residential serving, community serving solar and residential rooftop definitions. It's really actually pretty expansive for residential rooftop because it can be rooftop, pole mounted or ground mounted. And of course, with the residential serving community solar, it's capped at 5 megawatts, where at least 50% of the power is being and the benefits from that power is being delivered to residential customers in LIDAC communities within the same service territory. Then that can follow a number of ownership models. Next slide. So again, just the basics. It can go beyond the solar and battery storage components up to 25% on enabling 20% on supporting enabling upgrades, and 75% of the actual funding has to go directly to financial assistance to help build out those assets and communities. Next slide. So I will say that the focus, I think, of what we are hoping to bring from the state energy office is how engagement with our local stakeholders across the state, from residents and ratepayers to nonprofits to local governments and local power companies, is to build a program that would maximize the award of $156 million and $120,000 from EPA, minus the $400,000 that is standard deduction sort of across the awardee board for contribution to the National Renewable Energy Lab Technical Assistance Program. And so again, look, how can we understand what statewide needs are to help inform that program on the get-go, so that our application really reflects the needs within the state. And so that translated into over 9,800 total households that would benefit, with an average funding of almost $16,000 per household, with a total delivery of over 41 megawatts of nameplate solar capacity, as well as 22 plus megawatt hours of storage capacity that could be coupled with that, resulting in a reduction of over 53,000 short tons of carbon dioxide, and an estimated annual savings of over almost $3.5 million, which converts to just under $350 per household, which may not sound like a whole lot, but in a LIDAC community, that actually can mean the difference in being able to buy groceries, get transportation, and other health insurance needs taken care of. And if we had full deployment with what is sort of anticipated or scoped out in the work plan, we would be looking at over $13.5 million in estimated savings in the first 5 years. Next slide. So just a real quick update. Again, I know we want to focus on how we engage with local partners, but just to show some progress here, we have continued to engage. Our planning year happens to run from December of 2024 to December of this year. We are a little more than halfway, and we are getting ever closer to releasing our notice of intent and solicitation that I'll speak to a little below. And we are continuing to maintain our compliance within the EPA guidelines, inclusive of having just received, I guess a week ago Friday, the household savings guidance that will help to continue to inform our program design and our quality assurance project plan. And just today, we received the good news that our NREL technical assistance scope of work has been approved. So we're excited to move forward. The components that we'll focus on will be of benefit both to us as program designers and application reviewers, to hopefully also the applicants and guiding them, and particularly for local jurisdictions and power companies that don't have the level of experience under their belt in deploying distributed energy resources. So that's another piece that I'll kind of speak to, but we wanted to create a program that would encourage collaboration between experienced and less experienced entities to build out this program across the state. So that we are hoping to release our notice of intent within the month of August, and about a month ahead of time of a full solicitation that will give folks a couple of months to respond to. So you're looking at a total of about 3 months where folks will have an opportunity to that first month is really to help them plan for, start thinking about concepts, team building, and understanding program requirements, so that when the full solicitation hits, that they're in a better position than had we just released it dry. So next slide. No, this is a pretty dense slide, so I'll try to keep it fairly easy to follow. Essentially, when TDEC began entertaining a need to have a statewide application, understanding that local communities across the state, everyone from Memphis to Nashville to Chattanooga to Knoxville could be interested in applying themselves. And so we wanted to shape an application that wouldn't be in direct competition. The reality is if they wanted to apply, they could, but if we applied, that our program would be complementary and inclusive of their needs. And so that's really where the engagement piece came in, as well as listening to everyday stakeholders, community stakeholders. And of course, the local power companies, the local govs have their own relationships with local stakeholders that help inform their own needs and plans. And so the big tenets that we heard that need to be hit, obviously, are increasing grid stability for their communities in the face of increasing weather events, reducing energy costs for ratepayers, and particularly in low income and disadvantaged areas, reducing air quality emissions, and providing zero emission energy alternatives to help support that, and execution of the local power companies' generation flexibility options within the long-term service contracts with the Tennessee Valley Authority. So as it says below, we've also, continued to have monthly stakeholder meetings, this year and before, these kind of intensive discussions that helped inform the project plan. Next slide. So what were the outcomes, without getting into too many details before the release of the notice of intent? We wanted to make sure that these benefits, as I mentioned, are balanced across the state's varied communities. We wanted to provide some streamlining and program design so that applications make sense and are relatively easy to execute, and the requirements are easy enough to understand. Doing that also enables that the funds can be deployed and implemented in a timely manner, and reducing overcomplication or layering of partnerships or subcontractors and things like that that could lend themselves to just an increased opportunity for gaps being had in reporting or other things that draw unnecessary attention in the way of audits and things like that. We want, again, this money to get directly to the ratepayers as quickly as possible, so that they can start receiving those benefits. So, ultimately, what we're going to be looking at is essentially a single solicitation, but has a couple of tracks, which are going to be called local implementation teams and consortium-led implementation teams. And those would be the multi-jurisdictional. The primary difference is on the local implementation team that's going to be led by either a local gov or a local power company, whereas in the multi-jurisdictional, the idea is that if you have an area of the state that doesn't have the expertise, you could partner with a nonprofit who on that consortium could actually lead the application, but must be in partnership with a local gov or power company. And we would just want those to not overlap. So that is where kind of the strategy of trying to get that cross-state geography checked and really getting these projects deployed equally. So that, of course, would include in front and behind the meter community serving solar, behind the meter residential rooftop as it's defined in the terms and conditions. It can serve both single multifamily and the associated storage and enabling upgrades. Next slide. And so a component, obviously, of our program is workforce development that will engage solicitation separate from the solicitation that I just mentioned. And so we are beginning outreach and coordination with starting with the state agencies and the industry reps, such as the Solar Energy Industries Association, as well as those conversations with local govs and power companies. But from the state's perspective, the Department of Commerce and Insurance houses the State Fire Marshal's office, which includes our inspectors. And so we're trying to get a cross-industry set of feedback that informs where that workforce development could be used best. And what we found is that there's a lot of inconsistency in terms of how trainings and certifications are established in the different service territories. So getting some uniformity across those and helping to fill the gaps where there are not enough inspectors or inspectors are being pulled into different markets due to compensation differences and things like that. We want to have as robust of and broadly broadcast program as possible to reach all those folks. And so that also includes on the local level, local power companies, academic and trade institutions, and then bridging that gap between state and local government. Next slide. And this is just a quick snapshot of our timeline, just to sort of show project progress. You can see towards the end there, of course, the NRLTA was approved, and we've spoken with them about kind of having an ideal timeline to help accelerate and prioritize to meet the needs of getting our solicitation out and having resources available for local govs and power companies or applicants in general. And again, hoping for a third quarter release of our notice of intent and solicitation to follow, with selections hopefully happening at the end of the year, maybe by the end of the year, worst case scenario, first month of the following year. And I think that's going to do it for us. And that's our contact info, myself and Audrey Jackson, our communications officer for the office.
Thank you so much, Eric. That was really helpful. And just kudos to you and the Tennessee team for being so thoughtful, I think, in how this program is being designed, and especially the local engagement. So really exciting to hear this update.
Great. Thank you.
Great. And last but not least, rounding out our speakers today is Ari Moledina with the Colorado Energy Office. Ari, I've got your slides here if you'd like to just continue, or you're welcome to share your screen.
Yeah, you can feel, I think I might be sharing my, actually, if you don't mind, I can share my screen. Is it?
Yeah,
is
that's
that?
totally fine.
Okay, well, let's see if that worked. Are you able to see the slides, or is that not showing up?
It's showing. Yep.
Oh, great. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me. And it was awesome to hear from everybody else and their earlier presentations. My name's Ari Moledina, and I'm a Renewable Energy Program Manager for the Colorado Energy Office. And I will be talking today about the automated permitting processing for solar grant program through the Energy Office. So just to give an overview of the grant program. This is a non-competitive grant for local governments in Colorado that want to adopt an automated solar permitting platform. We heard from Solar App earlier. So jurisdictions can adopt any platform that they would like, or they can also develop a custom solution. And so this grant program is really aiming to provide capacity support by reimbursing for any costs and staff time associated with adopting one of these platforms, so that jurisdictions can take advantage of the benefits that they provide. To give a little background on how this program came to be, the Colorado legislature passed a bill in 2023, which allocated funding to our office to basically stand up this grant program. And some of the motivation for this program included long permitting lead times in our state, incohesive permitting processes. So lots of jurisdictions tend to have different permitting processes. We had heard success stories with jurisdictions in California and the city of Denver adopting Solar App. And then, as a state wanting to just support our renewable energy deployment goals. So just some benefits of automated permitting, and I will go over these pretty quickly because I think, Patrick already kind of went over a lot of these, but saving staff time by automating plan review for about 80% of standard solar permits while ensuring code compliance. These platforms help reduce errors and permit reprocessing time, and they in general, allow folks to go solar as quickly as possible by reducing kind of some of that red tape around the permitting process. So just some local success stories. The city of Denver adopted Solar App in 2023. And within that first year, they were able to issue 759 permits with the platform and save about 320 hours of city staff processing time. So really helping to cut down on some of that kind of repetitive work that staff normally have to do when they're manually reviewing permits. The town of Bennett adopted Solar App, and they reported processing permits about a week quicker than they were previously doing, and also saving about $75 per permit on plan review costs. And then in Colorado, both Gilpin County and Alamosa County they adopted Solar App this past spring. So just to give you more context on what the grant covers, allowable costs include, like I mentioned, any in-house staff time or consultant time to onboard a platform like this. Usually there's a recommendation to train installers on using the platform, so any training costs would be covered. Any sort of installation or integration fees to integrate a platform with, a normal, like doing an API integration or pay for licensing fees. And then we can also cover maintenance fees for up to 3 years and any sort of hardware needed, which is rare, but it is included. And then we do have different grant awards based on population size within the state. We have tried to keep the application process really simple and straightforward. So like I mentioned earlier, this is a non-competitive grant. So it's a 3-page PDF application that's mostly, check boxes. There is a pretty simple budget file that we ask folks to submit, and then just a copy of the current permitting processes. But again, we as a state really tried to keep this grant process simple because we know local governments, already struggle with capacity, and just wanted to keep it really straightforward. So tying this into kind of solar for all, I think investing in automated permitting is a really great way to, proactively manage the expected increase in solar permits. Obviously, there's amazing solar for all programs in states across the country. And so really trying to get ahead of, this increasing volume of permits by investing in a platform that can process, kind of streamline that permitting process is really great. Again, local governments, we're trying to reimburse them for any costs, including staff time that they might spend on adopting a platform. And then I think just calling out that this can be a really helpful tool for both small and large governments. Even if a jurisdiction might not have a ton of volume, just noting that each, processing each permit does take time. And so especially if you have a small staff, investing in a tool like this can really help streamline that process and save a lot of time. And then with larger governments that might be getting large volumes of kind of the same repetitive manual process, just automating that can really cut down on that volume and enable for quicker permitting processes. So I know I kept it pretty short and sweet, but if you do have any questions for me, feel free to reach out to me via email. I've included my email here, and then I've also included the website for the apps program, so you can find any application materials available there. And I will pass it back to Sandy. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Ari, for being here. And thanks too for setting such a positive example of how to make a program as accessible as possible for local governments that might be otherwise capacity constrained. So thanks for sharing so much. And thank you to all four of you. I know we have a few minutes left. I definitely invite questions from the attendees in the audience, but also just wanted to pick up on a thread that I think came up across all of your presentations, which is just sort of how do you get the attention of local governments and local officials? We know that, they're often pulled in many different directions. And of course, we know that local officials generally do tend to care a lot about environment and solar deployment, but also about things like safety within, their building stock. And so how are you all seeing that kind of play out at the local level in terms of how you're engaging with local governments? Erik, maybe especially in the context of the Solar for All program, what do you think will be the kind of key to success in engaging local governments on that front? I'll let anybody that feels like jumping in jump in first.
I guess I would just say, and having been a former sustainability director for about 10 years for the city of Chattanooga, I guess refreshingly in the state of Tennessee, there's not a lack of interest in the programs, and it's usually capacity. So I think the things that from Solar App and SolSmart and ours programs that the grant programs that she's implementing, anything that can be done to help with that capacity is really what's helpful. And I think that's probably, again, the sort of motivator behind our program, designed to try to make it as logical as possible to meet those needs. Tennessee Valley Authority area, is a little bit unique, but at least I think somewhat predictable in terms of having a 5% generation cap. The challenge there is some locations are sort of bumping up against their cap and needing to have creative solutions for maybe partnerships that would support that. But the good news is that we have 95 counties and 150 plus local power companies. And so I think there's plenty of opportunity, but I definitely want to give kudos to all the folks that presented, and because Chattanooga is actually a SolSmart Gold certified city. I think Nashville is our other one in Tennessee, and it certainly helps reduce. It brings awareness. I guess let the others answer, but that program in itself was a vehicle to bring awareness within our planning and codes divisions, and reducing unintentional barriers, but also building that collaboration across, whether it's the fire company, the local power company, the local trade schools, to build skills and be able to cross-check across those, so there's greater communication on the ground when it comes to solar deployment.
Yeah, Sandy, thanks, Erik, for that plug. Appreciate that, of course. So something that we've been seeing since January is local leadership really stepping up and saying that, and especially with large scale solar popping up more and more, data centers entering into their communities, or their economic development organizations wanting to recruit a data center, but not maybe understanding how that is going to affect their load growth. So kind of through the back door is these local governments are wanting to, they feel like they're having to react. And so they contact us as well as Solar App to say, we need to respond and have better tools to ensure that we have mutual benefits with large scale solar and us also the data centers. So we've really seen an uptick in interest in streamlining their processes for solar and probably quite a few other clean energy offerings like charging. And
yeah, I think the only thing I'll add, and I think Brandy, you kind of touched on it just now, but it's just kind of making sure you're looping in and the right contacts, and just acknowledging, I think, especially with some of these tools, there can be folks from building departments that you need to loop into and sustainability departments, and those might not be housed in the same agency within a local jurisdiction. And so I think just bringing all the stakeholders to the table up front when you're having these conversations can just help those changes happen more efficiently.
Great. Thank you all. Just in our last few minutes, I was hoping to kind of get your insights on what this next chapter might look like for solar, and especially residential serving solar. We know that there are federal and congressional policy changes that's all affecting the economics of projects. Patrick, I think you raised a really important point about, there's windows of opportunity to deploy. And then there's also, solar continues to be affordable, and obviously a very low fuel cost. And so I would just love each of your thoughts on, what should state energy offices bring back to, whether it's their Solar for All program design or just their solar policies and programs, the work that they do. What should they know about what this next sort of phase of the economy, the industry might look like? A really easy question to answer in 3 minutes, I know.
I can speak to how Solar App is thinking about that and how that might be relevant to some of the audience on the call, which is, if you had asked that question, Sandy, of our planning, what's the outlook for solar? Where are we trying to be most active? Where are we trying to do the most good? Again, we're like some folks look at, we're a nonprofit with a mission to do the most good with limited funds, right? So we would have said, oh, we're nationwide. We're in 17 states now. We want to be in 20 states next month. We want to be in 30 states in the next quarter. Boom, but we could be everywhere. And the reality is that I totally agree. I'm optimistic. There's opportunities for high leverage impact here, but also solar is not going to be equally competitive everywhere. If you're a high energy cost state, your constituents are going to continue to knock on your door and say, what's the solution, right? So it's going to be about, we're looking at now, where are the fewer states where we can be deeper, to be honest, in terms of our conversations, in terms of our quality of education. Ari's point about having multiple contacts, and Brandy echoed this, multiple points of contact. We know it's not enough to email. We could have a great solution, but it's going to be about, are we understood, and do we understand the environment? Do we have people helping us open doors and making sure we're understanding the audience? So we're looking at being deeper in fewer regions, to be honest. I'm more excited about the Solar for All partnerships because, frankly, for the folks on this call, if they see value in the work that Brandy's doing, that Solar App is doing, that we're doing, I think they can help us make a pathway to say, hey, but for Solar for All initiative, Solar App might not be able to be as active as we are in Colorado with Ari's help, for example, right? Or so that's what we're constantly evaluating is, where can we be active and how can we get more leverage out of good partnerships there's need there, but with being creative and having the right stakeholders, we can sort of punch above our weight and be really focused in a certain area for a specific amount of time. That's what we're thinking about.
Thank you, Patrick. That's really helpful in terms of a closing thought as well. Yeah. So for anybody that might have submitted questions that we didn't get to, please don't hesitate to contact me or Arvind on the NASEO staff. We're happy to facilitate any connections to our expert speakers. And thank you all so much, Brandy, Patrick, Ari, Erik. This was a really great conversation, and we're just so excited to lift up the work that you all are doing and just the important ways that you're helping to advance solar in your communities and in your state. So thank you again, and hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.